Hi everybody. Thanks for coming and seeing what I progressed with this week. It's been an almost no sunshine week, so my power has been exceptionally low, as some of you may remember this time of year. It's like that. A couple weeks to daylight going longer again, though. That'll be helpful. So yes, this is Bits and Bob's Progress 25 week episode 25, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done, but this week I decided that I'm going to work on those little things that are going to be fillers eventually. So yeah, we'll get started on that. I decided I didn't think I was going to do a Crazy Quilt Heart because I already did the Crazy Quilt sewing machine, which I love. But I think I can do a mini Crazy Quilt Heart, and that'll be a nice filler piece. I have done Crazy Quilt Hearts in my quilts so many times. You know what? I'm going to include a bunch of pictures here so that you can see what I've done besides this one here, which is a pincushion, and I'll talk about in a minute. All right. Yes, this is probably my last Crazy Quilt Heart that I've done. It's I did a pincushion playing with pincushion series, and this is one of them that I made. I did the little mini scissor fob, which made me squeal when I first did it because it's so cute. But one of the things I love about a Crazy Quilt Heart um, is it reminds me of, hearts can be broken and then they're put back together with amazing, beautiful embellishments. That's how I always think of Crazy Quilt Hearts, and I can relate. So yeah, okay. You can see I've done embroidery, I've done trim, I did a charm, and I even surrounded it with this. Do you recognize this, some of you? This cotton trim that I have. So what I've decided to do, and I'm going to take you through the process, I'm going to make my Crazy Quilt Heart a little smaller than the pincushion one. And look, I have, if I choose to surround it, I have that same trim in a pink, a rosy pink and a blue, which will work really well. I just haven't decided if I'm for sure going to do that, but so I'm pleased with that. Now, how I make Crazy Quilt Hearts and lots of my Crazy Quilt items, I had a year block of the month through my site that was called Crazy Quilt Monthly Memories, and they were hexagons. I did that back in, oh geez, 2006, maybe 2008. I think it was 2008. So you can do all kinds of shapes. I happen to love the heart as a Crazy Quilt piece. So I start with my pattern and I cut it out of cardboard. You fold it in half, you cut your half circle. It's pretty easy to do hearts of all kinds of shapes. Now I do it on a foundation fabric. It's kind of like paper piecing, but you don't remove the foundation. You do all your stitching through the foundation. This is just a sandpaper board that I've made myself. You've seen in previous videos if you've watched some. It just makes the fabric, I can draw on fabric without the fabric sliding all over the place. So the nice thing about the foundation fabric is you can use ugly cotton that you're never going to use in your quilts. It doesn't show, so you can have that as your background. I'm just going to use this little piece of cotton that I have. So you put your heart down and you get your shape. onto your foundation fabric so you know where you are going to be stitching. That did not come out in one sentence. So you know where you are going to be stitching. There, now that was better. There. Now you need to break up your heart into little patches. Now on this one I did 5 patches. But on this littler, smaller one, I'm going to just do 3. Oh, I didn't show you this. These are the fabrics I've chosen to include in it for my Crazy Quilt Heart. I love this piece, and it's really got not much flowers on it. I have another one of my folded frames pieces also includes this fabric, but I really didn't have much to be able to use it much in my quilt, so I'm sprinkling it here and there, and that's going to be one of my Crazy Quilt patches. And these go so well with it. So the tip that I'm going to give you is don't start your lines at the dip of the heart, or in any, if it's a different shape, in any place where it's going to be really tricky if you have extra seam allowance. Same as at the point. You don't want extra seam allowance there. So you kind of just angle it elsewhere. So I'm going to do this. And also remember, whatever you are drawing, it's actually going to be opposite in the real piece because this is the back. So I do that. And let's see, how about the third one here? Yes, I like that. Okay. Now I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to give myself seam allowance. So 1/4 inch approximately. Better to be larger, and then you can trim back later. But you're just wanting to get rid of the extra fabric for now. And if I would, when I actually eventually trim this, I will probably come back and do that pinked with pinking shears. But for now, I'm just doing it to give myself a good size to work with. So that's my heart. Now I'm going to start with the 2. First, I'm going to decide what goes where. So yes, I think the rows down here would be just right. And then this way. Okay, I decide which is 1, which is 2, and which is 3 as your patches, like on paper piecing. So I'm going to call this 1, this 2, and then because this line covers both, we're going to do that one as 3. It's the order you place your fabrics. So this one's going to be 3, and I'm going to start with 1 and 2. So as with paper piecing, you align your fabric. I have to go off screen here to get the light of the window. Oops, this way. So on the back side, there's my drawing, I've aligned the straight edge of patch number 1 just beyond the sewing line of patch number 1, about 1/4 inch. And then I have to cut this for a second. And then I'm going to take, you do that face up. And then on patch number 2, I'm going to overlay it just on the, I didn't cut that perfectly straight, oh well, over the so that the edges meet, and I'm going to pin them together just to hold them while I stitch. Now I'm going to do all the stitching off camera because, as I've learned, I can't stitch on camera and be able to see it. It's not, my eyes aren't strong enough, and I don't have good enough glasses to be able to stitch this far away. So I'm going to go and I'm going to take a thread and I'm going to do a tiny running stitch along here, and when I'm done I'll come back. All right, here's the teeny tiny stitches I made across. You technically could do this by machine too, but since my bits and bobs is all pretty much hand done and hand stitched, and then also this is such a tiny piece, it only took me a couple minutes. Did anybody notice what I did wrong when I went to pin my fabrics? I had decided that this was fabric 1 and this was fabric 2, but I had pinned it the other way. I had pinned it so that this was face up, which was on the fabric 1 patch. Anyways, I caught it before I stitched. It was not very important, but I flipped it, so now it's the way I originally intended. So the two pieces are together, and now I open the patch 2 up, and for now I'm going to just finger press. If I had a good electricity, I would turn the iron on and give that a press, but I don't actually have, I barely have internet today. Okay, so once you've got it opened up, now we're going to work on this join. So we're going to turn, I'm going to sit down again. I just wanted to make sure I was well on camera. Okay. We're going to fold, I'm going to fold that approximately a 1/4 inch from the line, and I give the fabric a bit of a marking with my nail just to give me a spot of where that is. And now I'm going to fold it. Do this off camera, sorry, I need to see better. Yes. So I'm going to fold it where that is, and I'm going to trim these pieces off at that fold. Now you be very careful and don't catch your foundation fabric when you trim. You go even a smidge past it, just so that, make sure you don't do that. There. Now I have a straight line to add my 3rd patch. And again, I'm going to have to pull this closer to me to make sure. Now, because I want the rows for sure, I'm going to do this. Just, yeah, there. I think that'll be just right. Let me give that a pin before I turn it over, just to keep it where I want it. All right. Now I'm going to go off camera again, and I'm going to give, sorry, the shakes. I'm going to do the tiny stitching along that. Now I'll be back. I got that finished. And now I'm ready to flip it. Not much of the rose is showing, but enough for my liking. Gives me the color anyways. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just loosely cut out the heart again, just to get rid of the excess fabric. Sit down for this. I'm going slightly beyond the foundation piece, just to make sure that I don't cut myself short. Now, one of the, Crazy Quilting has been it's why I have so much trims and embellishments that I collected. Has always been part of my quilting life for decades now. And what I'll do is I'll include the link in the description below where I talk a little further about Crazy Quilting as playing with embroidery. Yeah, I did that video a year ago easily. So I'll include the link, so if you're interested you can have a peek. I've done things like I have a pattern that's a Crazy Quilt Father Christmas, and his coat is all crazy quilted. And I also, from that, oh, that's nice. From that, I also then did a Crazy Quilt Wizard, and his coat is all crazy quilted. Both of those I really love. They're both actually quite popular patterns too. Okay, now I'm gonna have to pause until I get some sunshine a little bit, hopefully tomorrow, and give this a good press. And then what I'm gonna start doing is embellishing the seam lines, which is what you do in Crazy Quilting. Every seam is embellished, whether it's embroidery or a trim. Oh, and I should have said, I didn't do it, but if you want to include lace, like across the patch, before you stitch the patches together, you tuck the lace underneath. But I didn't want to do that for this particular one. So I will press, and then I'm going to start embellishing this, and I will be back to show you more. Here's what I've done since I last was here a few seconds ago. For you, it's a few seconds. For me, it's a bit of time. The first thing I did is I basted tiny basting stitches around the shape of the heart. And I did this for two reasons. Actually three. One, it holds the layers together, and it shows me, gives me a guide on the front where the heart is, so that I don't needlessly embellish in the seam allowance. And then the second thing it's going to be really helpful for is when I go to turn my edges over to put the seam allowance to the back, it gives me a perfect guide as to where it needs to be folded without having to figure it out by having to redraw it on the front. So that's a tip there. And then here's what I've done. I did colonial knots along a single line like this. I've never done, that's one of the fun things about doing different embroideries. You can play and try things. I love the colonial knot. It's one of my favorite. It looks like a little flower. You do an X, and then you go around the X with, if you use a different color, it looks like a little flower. But I've always spaced those out more, and this I did in a straight, like a line across, and it kind of looks like a two-colored trim. So I'm pleased with that. And then another stitch, which is my favorite, my favorite, is the blanket stitch. So I decided to do that along the second seam. I decided not to do any frills or anything, but I think I'm going to add something here, which I'll talk about in a second. What else did I? Oh yes, so I didn't show you how to do these, but if you need online tutorials, I know YouTube has a bunch, but I also, on my website in the library section under techniques, you will find many how-to files to do with quilting, and under the hand sewing one, you will find this file called Decorative Stitches, and there's another one called Embellishments, which is also handy for Crazy Quilting. And these are free to request. They get instantly sent to your email address that you enter. So Blanket Stitches, that one that I, did there. And Colonial Knot is... Did I just miss it? It's here somewhere. Oh, it's not called Colonial Knot. I got that wrong. Spanish knot. There is an embroidery stitch called a Colonial Knot. This one's called a Spanish knot. There's a drawing of it. when I did it in, I'd never done it in a straight row like that before. All right. Like I said, these are free on my site. They've been free for a couple of decades now. They're all very handy if you are looking for how-tos. All right. The next thing that I did is, oh, and I forgot to mention, if you like this heart and you want this heart, if you look under my playlist, there's an applique series that teaches you different kinds of applique, and this template is free to request because it's part of the little tutorial that I do. So that's there if you want it. What I did is I took that and hold on, sorry about that. My cat Cole was about to throw up a hairball and you didn't need to hear that, so I thought I'd pause. All right, so what I did is I cut I cut a thin layer of batting with the template, and before I turn my edges and baste them down, I'm going to put the batting behind so that it has some extra cushion when I stitch it to my quilt. Just, you don't have to do that, but that's just what I plan to do. So for the decoration here, I decided to keep it semi-simple. Like you can see, I did lots more decorating on here, but for this one I didn't want to go, I wanted to keep it simple. So I just thought, well, if I just put one thing here, that would be make me happy. Now I tried different things. There's a ribbon flower that I made out of a piece of ribbon, but I didn't like how that looked, so I chose no. And I'm just auditioning different things. Then I tried, remember those 4-petal flowers I made a few weeks ago? That one's not bad. And even this one isn't bad either. I kind of like it. So they were a maybe. But then, do you remember these? I made these little hexie flowers and used the folded side of the hexagon for the top. I have the 3 still that I'm supposed to put on my quilt somewhere, and this blue is set aside. I'm going to make the leaves out of blue. But I put this one here, and I really thought that just screamed charming to me, way more than the little 4-petal. So I'm going to use that as my little accent on this little heart. And then just for fun, I'm probably going to position these close to the heart so that they still are in a sort of set of 3. So that's my plan. Now, besides that, now I'm going to show you what's next. So I told you that when I was done, I was going to trim this seam allowance slightly more. And I told you that I was going to do the curves with a pinking shear, and that's basically what I'm going to do now. You can do all of the cutting out with pinking shears. It doesn't hurt to do it in pinking shears, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it from this side though. Okay. So I don't need to leave a whole 1/4 inch, but I don't want to come too close either. So I'm going to, I better sit down and do this because I'm just can maybe see better. I hope I'm on camera. Yes, okay. So I'm just with my pinking shear, just going through all the layers and making sure there's at least 1/8 of an inch overlap to turn under. I even went a little close for my liking. I would have left that probably a bit bigger, but it's okay. It's on the straight edge, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. So for the curves, what it does is it relaxes the curve some so that you don't feel the need to have to clip however often curves make you clip. Depends on the curves. So that's why the pinking shears is such a good tip for this, for curves on applique. Okay, almost all the way around. Now the other thing to do now is you will need to clip into the big indented point, because that's not, when you go to turn your seam allowance, it won't go both ways. So you need to clip it, not all the way to the line, but just before the line, like one thread. So now I'll be able to turn this one this way and turn this one this way. All right, I'm going off camera again, and I'm going to baste around and yes, and put my batting in the back. And I'm not going to stitch this flower on yet. I'll baste it on, but I don't want to stitch it on until it's on the quilt. And then the other thing, what I am also going to do is, I've decided which this blue isn't quite the right blue for me. It's you guys know I'm matchy-matchy. But because I have the nice rose, it's much better fit. So once I have the edges turned, I'm going to also baste the trim around, and then the patch will be ready, and I'll come back and I'll show you it. I'm finished. Here it is. Isn't it pretty? It's still got to be stitched to the background of my Bits and Bobs quilt, and when that happens, then this basting stitching will come out. But that's basically it. I hope you are inspired to make a crazy patch of your own, to either add to a quilt or a jacket, or can be added to anything. They're just a sweet little crazy patch that you can enjoy embellishing. All right, thanks for watching this week. I will see you next week with more. Happy stitching!